gay to reserve your cheeks for another woman? Which cheeks? Babe, wake up! Princess Patamika tragic lesbian backstory reveal just dropped. I told you this woman had Carol Aird vibes. I could sense the sapphic vibes radiating from her. I mean, to be fair, the older unmarried woman with an ice-cold personality is pretty much a walking 1950s lesbian stereotype. I mean, her backstory was only 3 seconds long and told purely through eye contact, but I had tears in my eyes for all of those 3 seconds. Every single week I'm like, well, we better strap in because the drama is surely about to drop next episode, and then it just never does. Yeah, so I won't be telling anybody to strap in anymore. Take your strap off. Said no lesbian ever. Or put it back on. I don't mind. I don't know. What am I talking about? So, it's been Preek who is responsible for laying out all of those thousands of candles we see in every other scene. She's like a candle Santa Claus. I mean, she's just trying to set the mood at all times in the hopes of seeing her ship interact in a romantic way, and that is relatable. The highlight of this episode for me may have been Preek talking to herself like Gollum while she ate the food that Lady Pin had prepared for Anin. Nam is comedy gold. I mean, to be honest, you know, asking your servant to perform a physical act on another person, it might be crossing a line. It might be an abuse of power, especially considering that the person that you're asking her to perform the physical act on is Punisher Pin. That's pretty much putting your servant's life in danger. No wonder Preek was shaking in her boots in this scene and then ran for her life immediately afterwards. I was scared. This show is so kooky. He's a good man, Savannah. Prince Anan has pledged himself as a lesbian defender alongside Preek, and we thank him for his service. Anin standing outside of Lady Pin's window as though she's John Cusack in the film Say Anything. It was great. The only thing missing was a boombox. The sign language was cute though, so you know, we can forgive. Kirk is in the next episode. What's weird is I was just wondering if he was going to have a cameo in this show at some point, and here he is. The gang is all here. I mean, at this point it may as well be a Gap AU. All we need is for the final boss battle grandma to make an appearance and the collection is complete. Lady Pin is a businesswoman. She deals in lesbian trades and she's damn good at her job. My favourite thing about this scene is how Anin and Pin's pupils have expanded as much as they can without physically expanding outside of the eyeball. I'm a scientist, I know how eyeballs work. As though they needed to take in every single inch of each other in 4D HD Technicolor widescreen for informational purposes. Sometimes I'll watch Western lesbian content and I'll be like, oh my god, why is this so traumatic? And then I'll come back to the loyal Pin and it's like a safe, warm lesbian hug with consent, and that's why we love this show. I think, if we're honest, every single Anil Pin kiss that we get is a blessing from the universe. Words simply cannot convey the depth of their chemistry and connection in their scenes together. But apparently, an artistic shot of some melting candle wax can. This show recycles. It's environmentally friendly, and considering climate change is very real, that's a good thing. Wow, it got deep. Hi guys, welcome to a video, and in today's video, I'm just going to be giving you my thoughts on episode 10 of The Loyal Pin. This video is a bit different from my usual reviews because usually I kind of do a linear breakdown of each episode. But this video is more, here are all my thoughts in no particular order. It'll keep our marriage fresh. I'm worried one of us is going to have an affair if I don't do this. And I think a divorce would mess up our kids, who happen to be a cat and a houseplant. We also live in the woods and one of us is a mythical creature, and that's kind of hot. Maybe I do want to make this work with you. See? Our marriage is saved. So I really love this show, and I think overall it's done a pretty good job with the pacing and the writing, especially considering the narrative revolves around a slow burn romance. However, I was frustrated with the writing and the pacing in this episode, and I felt it was a lot less thoughtful than the writing and pacing in previous episodes. For example, Princess Patamika's tragic lesbian backstory reveal reveal is quite an important part of not only her character, but it's also something that impacts the main narrative too, and they didn't take the time to explore it properly. I felt like they could have easily cut some of the other stuff in this episode out so as to dedicate more time to her backstory, considering its significance to her character and her character's motivations. A lot of the pushback on Anil Pin's relationship is going to come from a place of homophobia and jealousy. But in Princess Patamika's case, it's clearly going to be related to her own heartbreak and potentially to her own internalized homophobia as well. And it would have been interesting to explore that angle instead of just glossing over it. I mean, maybe they're going to revisit what happened to her in a future episode, but I am not holding out hope. I mean, they did get the message across with the scenes that they gave us, but it absolutely felt like they were giving us the bare minimum they could get away with in order to spend more time focusing on things which really seemed much less important, in my opinion. But hey, Kuar is the cockroach of the girls' love world. He is feared and despised, he refuses to disappear, and he can survive under any and all circumstances. I have accepted he's a permanent scheming fixture of this show. I don't like it, but it is what it is. The worst part of this episode was Princess Patamika asking Kuar how Lady Pin feels about him, and him responding with, "She does not seem to like me." Bro, you know she doesn't like you, she hates you. At this point, I'm pretty sure both her and Anin are manifesting your death. Leave lesbians alone. This has gone way past delusion and infatuation, and has gone into sadistic pursuit territory. Like I said before, this guy is an evil mother. We've seen what's hiding underneath the mask. I think Kuar might end up being one of the most hated characters of all time from a girls' love series by the time this show is over. I'm calling it now! Kuar also opens up an investigation into Lady Pin's ring this episode, and to be fair, where the ring is concerned, I feel like Princess Patamika and other people, but especially Princess Patamika, would have noticed the ring and asked questions about it regardless if Kuar had brought it up or not. I said this last episode, but Anin and Pin are still clearly in their loved up fantasy era where they're trying to maintain this relationship whilst ignoring the reality of the situation around them. So from that perspective, their naivety about the ring and the questions it may bring does make sense. But even still, it's weird that they had no backup explanation prepared for the ring whatsoever, especially when they're not ready to come out yet, and Lady Pin is well aware of Princess Patamika's suspicious nature, and she clearly cares about what she thinks. But okay, this was such an intense scene, and I did gasp when Lady Pin told Princess Patamika she knew the meaning of wearing the ring on that finger. This was more or less a confession, and it did have me on the edge of my seat. This scene also highlights just how much Pin loves Anin, that she doesn't want to lie about the ring, and even more than that, she refuses to give the ring to Princess Patamika when she's asked, which is a huge deal considering their history and their relationship with one another. Again, I don't know why they cut away from this scene so soon. This moment is a huge turning point in both Pin's character and in her relationship with Princess Patamika, and I think it would have been interesting to see how the rest of that scene played out, instead of cutting away from it so soon and leaving me with so many questions. I thought the scene where Anin confronts Prince Anan over what he knows was probably the most touching scene in the entire episode. It was very well acted, and it was also very revealing that Anin presumed that her brother would try and put a stop to her relationship with Lady Pin, and that she never even considered that he may support her, which, especially historically speaking, is the gay mindset. You receive all of this negative messaging around homosexuality, you internalize that, and then you project it onto other people. And with Anin projecting this onto her brother, it gives us an insight into how she's been feeling and what she's been thinking about the situation that her and Lady Pin are in, which reveals how committed she is that she was in this relationship despite thinking everyone that she loved would be against it, and how well she has hidden her fears up until this this point. We've seen that Pin has expressed concerns about what's going to happen to them and their future together a couple of times, but we've never seen that from Anin, or at least from my memory we haven't. Anin has definitely put on a much braver front, and it was nice to see underneath that in this scene. I think this talk between Anin and her brother was also significant because we can see how vulnerable she really is and how much she needed this support from him. But it's also significant because he confronts her with the reality of the situation that she's in, and you can see it really registers with her. Prince Anan asks Anin if she's aware that not everyone is going to agree with her relationship, and you can very much see that she is aware and how hurt she is by that possibility. So really in this scene, for the very first time, everything that Anin has been hiding on multiple levels is out in the open, and I think this release was very much needed for Anin, and I think it's a turning point in her character. So the episode ends with Miss On revealing to Anin that she saw her and Pin together, and that if Anin doesn't break up with Pin, she is going to expose their relationship to everyone. Miss On is just basically the female Kuar at this point. The thing is this, I don't know from the looks of the preview for the next episode that this really means anything. They have a pattern of having these huge cliffhangers at the end of each episode, and then the next episode comes and it's pretty much a non-issue. I think it's pretty clear that she will probably expose them, but I don't know that it's going to be this big bombshell moment. I have learned my lesson about expecting the drama, and then there is no drama. The other thing is, it's clear that at some point it's Pin who is going to have to make a choice about their relationship, not Anin. We know that from what Freen has said about Pin having to choose where her loyalties lie. It's in the title. It's kind of the whole point of the show. So I'm guessing Miss On will expose them, and then that leads to Pin having to make a choice. But we'll see. Overall, there were parts of this episode I really enjoyed, and not just for science. This episode offered a lot of heartfelt performances, but if I'm gonna be honest, I felt like the writing and the pacing could have been a lot better in places. I know that this show is more about enjoying the kind of visuals and the feelings, and you know, it's not that deep. But I thought the pacing and structure of this episode could have been a lot more thoughtful than it was. I mean, we're also moving into the final quarter of this show. It's going to be episode 11 next week, so you know, I think it's time for them to unleash the lesbian suffering that they've been building up to for the past month. Like, I'm at the stage where I want the lesbian suffering to happen now, just because it's been promised to me. So I'm like, you know, give it to me. Give me the suffering. I like to use fictional suffering to distract me from my real life suffering. That's the good stuff. Okay guys, let me know your thoughts on episode 10 down in the comments section below. Don't forget to subscribe for instant disappointment, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.